I'm really excited to introduce our next speakers. Tracy Timm is the founder and CEO of Thrivist, a proven career counseling business that serves both individuals seeking more clarity for themselves, as well as organizations seeking more engagement for their employees. Tracy is also a speaker and an author specializing in helping purpose-driven individuals find extreme career clarity and pursue their dreams with confidence. Tracy attended Yale, where she got a degree in psychology. Her newly released book, Unstoppable, leads you through her proven trademarked career clarity system called the Nth Degree. She has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, CNBC, CNN Business, Indeed, and more. If you believe that you're made for more but feeling stuck in your career, Tracy's expertise can help. Tracy currently lives and works in Dallas, Texas, and we're so excited to have her join us today. She's going to be in conversation with our own amazing Limor Bergman-Gross. Limor previously served as director of cloud computing and engineering as an engineering manager at DigitalOcean. She has since joined us as the director of mentorship for Power to Fly. And she also volunteers with Plato, where she mentors managers as well as leaders. For more than 10 years, Limor has been leading teams and organizations of different sizes while building a great culture, innovating, and shipping products. Limor enjoys helping engineers grow both their technical abilities as well as their communication and collaboration skills. I'm so excited to hear this conversation, so I'm going to turn the stage over to you. Take it away, ladies.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Meg, as always. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Limor.
How are you today?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here and really excited to share all this information, have this great chat with you.
Absolutely, me too. And Meg did such a good job introducing both of us. So I think we can just dive in. I know that you have some slides you wanted to start with, so I'll let you just drive that.
I do. Yeah, let's jump right in. So welcome everybody to Pivot with Confidence using your transferable skills. Again, my name is Tracy. Meg, thank you so much. You gave that introduction beautifully. I want to bring you with me everywhere I go. So today we're going to talk about how to take something that may not seem applicable to where you're going and make it super relatable to following your dreams. So again, I'm so excited to be here. A little bit of my background, you guys already heard this, right? Yale, degree in psychology. I also, after graduating school, I worked on Wall Street for a couple of years. That's the whole reason that I'm a career counselor and strategist now, because I hated my first job out of college. So I quit that. I went on a semester at sea. I got re-inspired. I met incredible mentors. And that's why I get to sit in front of you today, because that put me on this path to leaving that soul crushing job that was great on paper and everybody told me I should be grateful for, but I hated, and to start really pursuing something that I actually loved. So I spent 5 years implementing behavioral assessments within companies. So I'd go in and help them do everything from hiring to succession planning. And then I spent the last 7 years, building a career counseling and clarity-based business. And that's where my expertise lies today. And I believe that one of the core components of us finding career clarity is truly knowing what our transferable skills are and having an incredible depth of knowledge when it comes to the value that we have to give in a professional environment. Because if we're going to go out there and advocate for ourselves and try to get a job, we have to be selling ourselves pretty hard in this environment. And that means making your relatable or unrelatable experiences relatable to someone else. So my passions have a lot to do with you guys. You can tell probably already that, despite it being on the earlier side for me personally, I love this stuff. I love your story. You're going to get to see my 2 cats later in this presentation, probably a picture of me drinking wine and or traveling at some point. But that's because I'm a lot like you guys. I have the same types of passions and interests that you do. Plus, I love to see people thrive. The entirety of our business exists to take people from surviving and getting by to thriving. And what's fascinating about this to me is that it's really easy when we look at nature or when we look at animals or when we even look at athletes. It's very easy to see when something is just getting by and when something is thriving. It's very easy to see that difference, almost even visually, as in this example. But when it comes to our career, we can sort of fake it for a long time, right? We can look like we're happy. We can look like we're thriving, but inside we're really just barely getting by. So my goal with my business, Thrivist, is to help people become one who thrives. That's our definition of Thrivist. So today I'm going to do that by sharing with you some interesting information about how to transfer your skills and how to use those transferable skills to pivot with confidence. Because guess what? Today's marketplace, and jobs look very different, right? You could be in an office setting, you could be using your hands, you could be doing customer service and direct customer engagement. You could be working from home with your cat. You could even be out in the field doing something like construction, which is this last picture, if it will come up. The fascinating thing about this whole idea is that when you're making a pivot, it can be really challenging to take one set of experiences that made absolute sense in one environment and try to transfer them to another one. So part of the battle or part of the challenge here is making your seemingly unrelatable experiences more relatable. So what does that look like? Well, in our careers, we have a handful of what I like to call puzzle pieces, right? When we're putting our ideal career together, sometimes finding it can look like putting together an impossible puzzle. Maybe even it feels like the puzzle pieces are upside down and you're just trying to put things together in a way that makes some sort of sense. Some of the pieces, like any puzzle, are going to go together very easily. Maybe it's easy to find the edges. Maybe it's easy to find the corners, but finding that one rare middle piece is always the challenge. So I find that it's much easier if we narrow down the types of pieces to look for, especially when we're confused or when we're overwhelmed. And I find that there are really 3 specific types of, quote, career puzzle pieces. And we're going to focus on just one of those today, which is your skills. So what are those 3 types of puzzle pieces? What does it mean to find your career fit factors? Well, first of all, what I like to call your now is where your very first set of puzzle pieces are going to live. What is now? Now is who you are deep down and what you care about, meaning your values, your vision, your commitment. And when you think about what you value, when you think about what deeply matters to you, how that equates to a work environment is your culture or your value set within a company. So if you're in a really high alignment with your values and the company's values, then we like to call that a good now fit or a good culture fit. That's where your first set of puzzle pieces come from. Your second set of puzzle pieces are going to come from what I like to call your nature. Your nature equates to a behavioral fit in a specific type of environment and a specific type of job. And we pull those puzzle pieces from our personality, from our behaviors, and from our gifts, just those aptitudes, part of our hard wiring, the things that just are true about us that are unlikely to change. All of that comprises your unique nature. But the piece that we're going to talk about today is largely what I like to call your nurture. Your nurture is everything else. If nature is your hard wiring and what you didn't necessarily ask for, then nurture is everything else. It's all of the really amazing things about you that you worked hard to earn or learn over time. So this is your knowledge, your skills, your expertise. And when you can get all of those puzzle pieces out of your head and onto paper, what you have is a really incredible depth of knowledge into your professional transferable skill set and your professional value. And when you get these puzzle pieces out on paper, the cool thing is you can start to transfer them to any environment, right? When you pull them out of the environment they originated in, you could start to apply them to any type of environment. So if you're looking to get more clarity, these are the 3 puzzle pieces you want to look for. And today we're going to focus specifically on nurture. Now, what does that mean? When you pull all these puzzle pieces together, I believe, so I grew up playing softball. I was a varsity athlete in high school and in college, which is coincidentally how I got to go to Yale of all places because I got recruited. And what we used to say when you were batting was, if you aim small, you'll miss small. Meaning if you aim for a really small area on the ball and you miss just by a little bit, you're still going to hit the ball. But if you aim big, meaning you aim for the entire ball or you aim for like just above or just below the ball, then you may miss completely. And this was reiterated to me by a really incredible mentor that I met on semester at sea. He's like, if you aim for the moon, you have a chance at landing among the stars. What does that mean? It means that in an ideal world, we want to take your now, your nature, and your nurture, and we want to see where those items overlap, because what that comprises is your professional niche. Your professional niche, where your now values, your nature, personality, and your nurture, your skills meet. That is your niche. This is the gold standard when it comes to finding your perfect fit career and finding extreme clarity. And this is our proven and trademarked methodology called the Nth Degree that we use here at Thrivist. So again, today we're talking about that third fit factor, which is your nurture. I'm going to give you a couple of ideas here. So if you're taking notes, the next slide is probably the one you want to be taking notes on. And then Lamore and I are going to have a fun conversation about these fit factors and specifically about your transferable skills and how you can pull those out and leverage them in order to pivot with confidence. So again, actually not this slide, it's a couple slides from now. The importance of knowing your nurture. The importance of knowing your nurture. I like to go back to athletes because that's an analogy that makes a lot of sense to me. So let's say that day one at your job, you are a proverbial professional athlete, right? You're showing up at a work environment and you're having to tell your boss or that company where they should leverage you to get the most value out of you in that organization. That's your job as the athlete, because your boss is the manager of a massive team, right? Maybe it's a team of 3, maybe it's a team of 5, maybe it's a team of 10, and they don't know you the way you know you. They don't necessarily know where on the field to put you unless you tell them where you're going to add maximum value. And this is really powerful. We've had so many clients who've graduated from our clarity programs come back to us and say that it was their managers who are the most grateful for their new level of clarity, and how they wish that everybody who worked for them had that same level of clarity because it makes their job easier. Imagine if you were the manager of a baseball team and you had 9 athletes show up and none of them told you the positions that they were supposed to play, and you just threw them out onto the field. You could have a pitcher catching, you could have a catcher playing center field, you could have a center fielder playing third base. And while they're all baseball players, right? They're all athletes, they're not in the right position to add the most value to the team. And that's exactly what happens to us when we don't advocate for our maximum value and contribution by knowing our transferable skills and then articulating them powerfully in the professional environment. So remember, this is maybe the biggest mantra when it comes to your nurture, when it comes to your transferable skills. It's that nothing is wasted unless you waste it. If you are here because you're thinking about making a career pivot, it's highly unlikely that you're coming from a place where you're not super happy, right? Most of us don't pivot out of something that we loved. We usually pivot out of something that wasn't serving us for one reason or another. And it can be very challenging to look back at that experience and want to pull any value out of it. I know when I worked on Wall Street, looking back after I left, I didn't even want to think about it, let alone think what my transferable skills were from that experience. But nothing is wasted, meaning that time is not wasted unless you choose to waste it. So the question today is, will you leverage that time, and how will you leverage that time? I like to say that there are very clear ways that you can do this. One great example is a case study that we had, this girl, Autumn, who graduated from our program middle of the pandemic. So before working with us, she was feeling really diminished at work. And specifically, she lost confidence because she lost her sense of her path. And she started to feel like she wasn't meeting her full potential. She wasn't meeting her professional capabilities. And while she worked with us, we honed in really hard on her nature. We figured out her values, yes, and her strengths, yes, but we looked very specifically at the skills and the knowledge and the expertise that she had built up over that period of time that she had been working. And it was that depth of value that created her confidence. Again, it's knowing your value in a really deep way. So after Thrivist, she was able in 2 weeks, you guys, in the middle of the pandemic, this was last August, I believe. Within 2 weeks, she had multiple job offers. She leveled 2 tiers up in an organization. So she went to a new organization and went 2 roles above the one she had had previously. And she got a massive raise in the process. So this is what's at stake for you as well by knowing your transferable skills and articulating them powerfully. So where are you going to find them? I know I've been sort of keeping this, this is your notes page. This is the one where you want to start writing some notes down about where you can find your transferable skills. So first and foremost, I want you to take some assessments. Now you may be like groaning, like, oh, Tracy, I've taken every assessment that's out there. I get that. But using proven tests and personality assessments to highlight your value is massive, because it will reiterate what is true about you in different words. It will give you new things to say to describe yourself. Then I want you to use the mirrors of others. So you can unlock some of your really underappreciated gifts by simply going to people in your life and asking them, hey, what do you think my best qualities are? Go to your parents, go to your friends, go to your siblings, go to your colleagues, and just say, hey, if you had to say 3 things, what are my 3 best qualities? I guarantee you're going to be shocked, because when you're operating at your best, people see it and they see it consistently. So you may survey 20 or 25 people, and you're probably only going to get something like 5 to 6 different answers. And this happens for every one of our students. Then I want you to look at your work history. Do not waste your valuable work experience simply because you're coming from a place that didn't make you very happy. Look back at every one of your experiences and ask yourself 2 questions. What did I learn? And what can I bring with me? What did I learn? And what can I bring with me? And then I would ask yourself the secret 3rd question, which is like, what do I actually want to bring with me? Because if you're bringing something with you that you don't really want, it's really not going to serve you for very long. Then I want you to look at your education. Get inspired by your intellectual pursuits. Whether you have a GED or a PhD, I don't care. Look at how you've educated yourself over time. Maybe you're listening to podcasts. Maybe you're reading books. Maybe you've explored the world by traveling. Maybe that's been your classroom of the world, right? Look at how you've been educating yourself and stimulating yourself intellectually, and find some inspiration into your transferable skills there. And then last but not least, I like to call this area your ninja skills. What are your ninja skills? That's your hobbies, your travel, your extracurricular activities, your volunteering, anything you do simply because you love doing it is a place to pull professional skill from. Just because you're not getting paid to do it, or just because it doesn't happen in an office, does not mean that it doesn't have professional value. So that's where you're going to find your transferable skills. Remember, now plus nature plus nurture is going to equal your niche. This is what we're aiming for. This is the gold standard in clarity. So then you're going to have to share this with the world, right? And that's what we're going to talk about next, is exactly how to do that. But before we do, I want to share a couple freebies with you guys. My entire business is centered around this proven methodology, this Nth Degree clarity method. And we have multiple programs. That's some of my team members over there on the right. We run a couple of different clarity programs that you guys are more than free to check out. I'm going to show you how to get there in just a moment. If you want us to help you through this process, I'm going to give you a couple of ways to start exploring options with us. Our #1 career clarity program is called the Discover Career Clarity Program. We're not all about making it too complicated over here. It's a 10-module class that we sell in a couple of different formats that has been impactful to hundreds of individuals over the last 7 years. So here are my freebies for you guys, and then we're going to start our Q&A. Lamore and I are going to have a fun conversation and share some more information with you guys. On the left, if you are a fan of the QR code, as I have become during these COVID times, during scanning them at restaurants, right? The QR code on the left is for a free training. You do not have to enter an email address. You do not have to tell me your name. If you scan that page, you will go directly to a free training. It's 45 minutes long, and it is all about how to get more clarity in your career. On the right, if you know that this is something you're interested in and you want to talk to me or a member of my team, we do offer free clarity calls. They're 25 minutes long. They're absolutely free, but please use that judiciously. We have a limited number of spaces, and I need you guys to be serious about this area of your life to take one of those slots, because you may be taking it from somebody who really wants to make a change in this area. So if you're just sort of getting your toe into the pool, I highly recommend you watch the training on the left. If you are interested in learning more about our programs, then please feel free to book a call using the QR code on the right. For anything else, you can contact me. Those are my 2 cats, and that's Brunch, because I love brunch and I love champagne and I love my cats. You can contact me at tracy@onewhothrives.com. And of course, we're going to throw all of these links into the chat as well. So Lamore, I think I just talked 90 miles a minute. I know we have a little bit of time, but I'm so excited to have a chat with you as well.
It is incredible. You were able to squeeze so much value in
I hope so.
It's incredible. Thank you so much. And I just want to say to all the audience, if you haven't took all the notes, that's okay. Everything is recorded and will be available on our website. And you can just leave the slides here if you want people to to make sure that they take those QR codes and URLs. Amazing. We do have a question from Vandana, and she asks, any particular assessment test that you suggest?
Yes, I have three for you. These are the three that we use in our Clarity program specifically. So
Uh-huh.
number one is going to be one that you haven't probably heard of. It's called the predictive index. The predictive index is actually the assessment that I sold and trained on for 5 years. So it's primarily used in businesses, but you can get it for free online as like a trial or a demo. It is, yes, thank you, the predictive index. It is my absolute gold standard 5-star favorite because it will tell you your personality, but it'll tell it to you in professional terms. So instead of just saying that you're persuasive, it'll actually tell you where that's useful in a professional environment. Instead of just telling you that you need to be around people, it'll tell you what that means as far as the type of office you should be in, or should you be on a team? Should you be leading the team or part of the team? So I find that really, really valuable. And then I highly recommend some type of skills assessment. We go back and forth between Clifton Strengths and the High Five. The High Five is free online. It is very similar to Clifton Strengths, except it's like 100 questions. So you got to really put your big girl pants on if you want to sit down and take that. The Clifton Strengths, I think, is like $12 and it's a little bit shorter. They're both excellent.
How do you spell it? Or if you can put it in the check box?
Yeah, absolutely. So Strengths Finder is another name for it. Or I think they've just rebranded as Clifton Strengths. And then the last one, I really like 16 Personalities. It's also free online, and they take a Myers-Briggs approach and they marry it with the 5-factor model. So that's a really fun assessment as well. Plus their website is gorgeous and they have just a depth of knowledge that's unbelievable. So I would try those three.
That's incredible. We have another question from Nee Miller. When updating my resume, should I just focus on skills? I have a lot of skills from outside of my job, but I don't know how to let potential employers know about all the skills.
Oh, that's such a good question. Thank you. So first and foremost, when you're updating a resume, rule number one, before we even start talking about what goes on it, every single resume that you update must have a target job, meaning I'm of the belief that there's really no point in just sort of globally updating your resume unless it is targeted towards a specific role that you are applying to. What does that mean? It means that what you choose to add to your resume, meaning how you describe each job, whether you talk more about personality or more about skills, whether you talk more about values or more about achievements, right? All of that is going to have to do with who the audience is, who's going to be reading this resume, and where you're going to be sending it. So for instance, if you're going to be sending it digitally, you've got to think heavily about these applicant tracking systems that are starting to, sort of robotically survey resumes for a certain set of words. If you're going to be giving this to a human being, maybe it's the hiring manager or someone who would directly manage you in X, Y, and Z role, then you're going to want to know what that person prioritizes and speak to those things. So frankly, I don't do a lot of resumes because I think that actually articulating your value to another human being, either in person or on the phone on Zoom, is a much better way to convey your value and your work history. If you can't get in front of that person, then when you're looking at updating your resume, I would go for a mix of the 3 things that we've talked about earlier. So when I think of those 3 things, I think of now, what are my values? And how do those relate to professional or corporate values? B, nature, what is my personality? And how does that relate to a specific work environment? So are you hardwired to be just a rock star in a certain environment as opposed to another? And then lastly, your skills. Because remember, skills can be taught and skills can be learned, but your values and your personality are unlikely to change anytime soon. So I would anchor with those, and then I would add your skills on top, being very open about your willingness to learn and your willingness to grow in specific areas related to that job.
That's incredible. We have another question coming up from Pooja, and she asked, how can you position a career break for taking care of a family member? What's the best strategy?
I love that question. I used to think that like a hole in your resume was sort of the kiss of death, if you will, right? Of anybody thinking that you were ever able to be hired again. One of the most beautiful things about this pandemic, which has been tragic in a lot of ways, is that I think people are starting to see each other as human beings again. Meaning when we're in the workplace, but now we're at home and your kid runs in or your cat, cat's butt runs across the screen or your dog's like yapping in the background. We have more patience for that now, right? We have more understanding for that now. So I think in this case, first and foremost, be honest. Be honest and be authentic, right? Because you're talking to a human being when you're positioning any sort of gap in your resume. So if you're taking care of a family member and that was a huge value to you, you know what that tells your future employer? That you're dedicated to your values, that you will show up for the people in your life that matter. You will show up for the things in your life that matter. So if you present yourself as that person who consistently meets the needs of their values in your personal life, that's highly likely to be the type of person you'll show up as a professional in their working environment. So I think that can only work to your benefit. So I would just position it honestly, and then talk about how you grew as a person. Maybe you added skills, maybe you read a book, maybe you listened to podcasts, maybe you did something during that period of time that added skills or something to your toolkit, and you could speak to that.
Thank you. Yeah, I really believe of being honest, transparent, and just,
Yes.
just you, right?
Exactly.
And Michelle is asking, how long does it typically take to find career clarity? And how long is too long? What's the best strategy for moving forward when you haven't found clarity yet?
Oh, I love this question, Michelle. Gosh. So when I was working on Wall Street, I was absolutely miserable, A. And then B, I felt really stuck because I would have happily run out of the front door, any day of the week, but I didn't know where I was going. And so I just sort of felt stuck there because why leave something that you have for something you don't even know exists or don't even know what you're running towards in the first place, right? So if you're doing this alone, meaning if you're going to try to cobble together books and podcasts and friends and advice and mentors, finding clarity usually can take somewhere between 6 months and several years, depending on the type of person you are, how important this is to you, things like that. That's what I've seen in my experience. It took me 2 years and lots of money to figure it out for myself. In our clarity process, it usually takes 10 weeks. And I know that sounds crazy compared to that amount of time, but we have a very specified program that I took 3 years to develop and then took the last 4 years to test across hundreds of individuals, across hundreds of different industries, ages 14 to 67. And I know it works. So I would highly recommend, if you don't go through our process to find clarity, which only takes 10 weeks, find a structured program. Find somebody who can promise you that they will walk you through step A, step B, step C, 1, 2, 3, right, to get to your final outcome, and look for something structured that you can lean on. Also, the whole best strategy for moving forward when you haven't found clarity yet, I like to think of our careers as kind of like we're at a bus stop at any given job that we're at. So imagine you're at a bus stop and you're waiting for the bus to come, right? And let's say this bus is Success, right? You're waiting for this bus to come and you're going, well, I've been here for 20 minutes and the bus usually comes every 10. How much longer am I going to wait before I just get up and walk, or before I get up and call a cab, or before I get up and go home? Set yourself a time frame in your mind of when you're going to be ready to get up and walk away. And that usually works for me, especially like when I'm doing something risky. So when I first started my business, I said, I'm going to give myself 2 years. I'm not going to question it. I'm going to give myself 2 years. And if it doesn't become something in 2 years, I'm going to get up from the bus stop and I'm going to walk away. And that was 7 years ago. So you never know.
Wow, we have more questions that we can answer today. Renee asked, any services, advice you can share once after you have recently transitioned to another career field and not getting noticed?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I think this goes back to, we, especially as women, and I usually like to pull the women card, but it's really important that we speak up for ourselves and advocate for our value with power. Especially in this day and age, we cannot just let our work speak for itself. So if you've transitioned to a new industry or a new career, you're already working in it, and you're not proactively advocating for yourself and articulating your value on like a quarterly or a semi-annual or an annual basis, I would highly encourage you to do that. And you can do that simply by logging your accomplishments and logging your value that you're providing to the company. Maybe you're selling something, maybe you've saved them a certain amount of money, maybe you've saved them a certain number of people in turnover. And that's how you advocate for your value. If you can show the business you're working for that you're either making them money or saving them money, they're going to notice you. But you have to put that in front of them consistently. So that's what I would recommend, is look back at what you've been able to accomplish so far, and then find a way to powerfully and professionally articulate that to people who should be noticing.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It was a pleasure, and you gave so much value to everyone. And Meg, back to you. We want to be on time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much, Lamar. I very much appreciate everyone helping me stay on time. Tracy, that your program sounds amazing. I cannot wait to dig into it a little deeper.
Thank you,
There are
Meg.
people, if you would like to join the Zoom chat on the website, there's a ton of people that still have more questions about your program. So hopefully
I
they
would
will
love
find them.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you so much.
Thank you.